three. 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Welcome to a very special edition of Teaching Crypto. This is AZcrypto with MrFOMO. Please hit that like, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button. MrFOMO, we were expecting no news until January, and this morning the news broke. Binance is the winning bid. A lot of quiet, and all of a sudden, a huge piece of noise coming out of nowhere. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about people's reactions, their concerns. There are some legitimate concerns. There are reasons to be excited. Well, I shouldn't say excited, but somewhat relieved. And there's also some reasons to be concerned. We'll go through all of that with you guys today. Why don't you start us off by breaking down the basics of the deal?
So first of all, this is Binance US, Binance.us, which is actually BAM Trading Services. It's important to recognize that the two are actually separate entities. They, CZ pretends that they are two, they are one and the same, but they're actually not. Basically, they're paying $1.002 billion for the crypto portfolio from Voyager. And then they're adding in another 20 million in incremental value over time, but those are initial considerations. So 1.022 billion. And if I remember correctly, FTX's pretend bid was like 1.4 billion. So this is a little bit off from that. But 3AC, the recovery fund for that remains with Voyager. And so there will be a vote. So I would imagine there will be another opt-in situation where we will have to go in and, check boxes and make sure that we opt into the 3AC. But that will stay with Voyager, and you'll have an option, I'm willing to bet, to go into that. One of the important points from today's release, I thought, was they will be returning crypto in kind. Yes, John says because the coin's value is low right now, and that's right, because the market is pretty down. But they will be returning crypto in kind, which Binance, we know, has a pretty wide variety of cryptos that they offer. So this would be better than FTX because they offer more cryptos, and people will be able to receive their actual crypto rather than having to cash out and go with, and go into tax problems. There is an additional 10 million good faith deposit up to a max of 15 million for Voyager's expenses through all of this. But that won't be returned to customers. That will go to Voyager to pay their expenses. The next hearing will be on January 5th, and that will be to solidify everything. And this, again, is subject to creditor vote. So we will have the opportunity to weigh in on this in a limited fashion. But this is good news. Now, earlier when I looked at the Stretto site, I didn't see anything updated. But another thing I did notice about this deal, that if the deal doesn't close by April 18th of 2023, or with a 1-month extension that they've built in. So my assumption is by May 18th, 2023, if they have to extend it, Voyager will have to move to return the value to its customers. So no matter what, by May, you should have either your crypto or your cash value.
And in a nightmare scenario, at least there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Some quick questions. Is VGX dead now? For right now, I would say yes. To be honest with you, Bernie. Things could change, but as of now, and we've been saying VGX has been dead since Voyager couldn't come back, to be honest with you. The people that talked about bringing Voyager back, those small exchanges like INX, and they just didn't have the funds. If they did, they would have put up a better bid. Reading between the lines, it seems like Binance had the money to pull this off, and the others were close. So unfortunately, right now, it doesn't look good for VGX. Here's the thing. In a perfect world, someone would be using VGX. Unfortunately, when Steve ran us into bankruptcy, he destroyed the utility of VGX. It sucks. And as someone that held a lot of VGX, it hurts me personally, and it hurts my bank account, but nothing I can do about it. We got to move on. And I want to make this point However, we do get our funds back. Let's hope that there's not another bankruptcy, because we'll talk about that. There are some concerns about, well, what if Binance US goes bankrupt? Then what? Here's the thing. Recovery is going to be up to you. And we'll try to help on this channel as much as we can. We're in this together, but we're going to have to create our own recovery, right? Steve Ehrlich is not going to help you recover. Binance US, we'll see. There are a lot of questions for me. In some states, and this is something that I think people need to understand. If you live in Texas, I'm not sure how you're going to have the option to use Binance US because it's not available in Texas. And luckily for us in Florida, it is available.
For now.
Yeah. So just for myself and yourself, Mr. FOMO, at least we have that option. Some of our viewers may not.
Yeah.
And
we want to remind everybody, if you are forced to take that cash value, that is going to force you into a tax situation.
But I'll be helped.
You have, like, if you didn't lose out.
But Mr. FOMO, 99% of people are going to. It's going to be. You're going to get credit for taxes, not
right. They're going to be
very few
reporting
people have made money.
Part,
Who's
right?
made money over the last few months that's worried about tax? I mean, let's be real here. When we say taxable event, we mean you're creating a loss to harvest. We don't. It's not as if, oh my God, I made so much money. So here's the thing.
We'll have to talk to somebody, but I wonder if there's a way to claim something like abandonment or something like that in order to gain more of a.
Especially since this is going to happen in January, and you're going to lose. How do you claim that taxes from March? It'd be great if we can get someone on. Ant has an excellent question. Any word on percentages? Not exactly, but it's less than the FTX offer. However, if you listen to, and this might be just press and good PR, the Binance US head on Twitter today was making a case that he was trying to get as much and as much as he could. I don't know if it's going to be 60, to be determined, I would say. Let's hold off on the 60% for now.
I would imagine that's probably pretty close to what you're going to see.
Maybe,
we
but I don't want
to. And you made mention that if it was 50%, that a lot of people are going to bail without question.
I don't want to jump the gun on. I don't want to jump the gun on 60. Only because 60 leaves a lot of people with a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah.
And I think Binance US would like, ideally, to gain new customers out of this.
Binance US, yes, but Binance overall owns like 70% of the market. So if people were just not to go with Binance, I don't think it would end up hurting Binance overall. But yeah,
we'll see. I mean, don't expect. It's not going to be better than the FTX deal for sure. I'm not sure. Is it low? Would it surprise me if it's only 60? No. I'm hoping for a little bit more than 60, but maybe I'm being overly optimistic. Let's wait and see. Throw in $50 worth of Bitcoin. I mean, I hope it's not a lot there, but right now, the way Bitcoin is going, look, we'll see what they can offer. We'll see what the stipulations are. Listen, the reality is we want this thing to come to a close, right? You get the people on that are screaming at the UCC, and we'll talk about them. Apparently, they were left in the dark. We'll talk about that. They could at least told us that.
You got to say that. You have to let people know that.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. We're gonna have to create our own recovery. It's not. No one's doing that for you. CZ's not gonna help you recover. Not let's say. I mean, you could use the platform. Steve Ehrlich definitely not gonna help you. We're gonna have to create. You're gonna have to. Hopefully you watch the show. We'll talk about coins, and there will be a bull run in the future. Things look extremely dark, but eventually the sun will come back out, and hopefully everyone that's watching the show can eventually be made whole. Not overnight.
And that's one thing I wanted to mention is that CZ has mentioned over and over again that his goal in this process is to make Voyager customers whole. What that means to him, we don't know, but my assumption is that would be more than 50 or 60%. My assumption.
Yeah, and maybe there are maybe there are some incentives to stay. The longer you stay, the more rewards you get. Who knows? I think we got to wait.
I mean, we have to remember that's what that's what FTX had built into their plan, even though it was a pretend plan just to steal our assets and gain control of their worthless FTT tokens. The idea behind it was that the longer people stayed, the more that everyone would get back. So hopefully we see something like that built into the overall plan. Binance saying, Binance.us saying, or BAM Trading Services saying, the longer you guys stick around, the more incentives we'll offer to everybody who's here, and the more payouts we'll give to everyone involved. Sort of like the FTX deal.
Yeah, I wanted to share something from the UCC, and I'm going to read it verbatim. On December 8th, the UCC was made aware that Voyager intended to accept Binance US bid as the highest and best. Before then, listen to this, the UCC was excluded from details regarding negotiations between the parties and the bid because of confidential concerns raised by Binance. So basically, they're saying we knew nothing until December 8th. Now, my thing is, why not come out on December 8th, December 9th? It's been over 10 days and say something. Then they continue and they talk about the fact that they're still learning as we are. Voyager has now entered into listen to this. This is the important date. We want to peek. It's scheduled. The hearing is scheduled for January 2023. It says, given the limited time frame the UCC has given to evaluate Voyager's decision, based on what we know today, the Binance US bid appears. The keyword there is appears. We know anyone that teaches language arts or English, appears is a key word here. The best transaction is time. The UCC still evaluating, and then you can click here and you can see the actual agreement. But Mr. FOMO, this is interesting because it seems like the UCC is learning on the go as we are as customers. It kind of proves again really quickly. I just want to make this point. They did not have as much power as people are screaming at. They deserve. I agree with some of the people in here that have said they've been horrible at communicating. But I agree with that. But let's acknowledge they were never in the driver's seat. That's not how bankruptcy works. As much as some people want to yell and scream that they should have brokered a better deal, they were not in position to do so, sadly.
Well, I mean, it calls into question the idea of the whole unsecured creditors committee anyway. If they're kept so in the dark, then what's the point of even having them? If we are getting the same information at the same time they are, then they don't have any value, especially if they're waiting until 9 o'clock at night to tweet it out, or whenever they tweeted it out. It's just it makes me question their value.
But these guys were never in control. I don't know who started the narrative. There's a couple people on Twitter. They started the narrative. I'm not even going to give them the airtime, honestly, that the UCC had some power. They never did. The only power they had was to inform us of what was going on. And they could make claims to the judge. They could ask the judge for things, right? But they were not going to position. They were sitting at the negotiating table with Sam Bankman-Fried and CZ saying, we want this, we want that. That was never happening. It would have been great.
It would have been awesome.
We were.
I think that's the idea that people got from the beginning, but that wasn't the reality of the situation.
A lot of misinformation.
Running with that idea is kind of irresponsible.
Yeah, and I was arguing with people on Twitter about this. That I agree. UCC did a horrible job of communicating. Communicating, one thing. Having power in the bankruptcy, two different things. Vastly different things.
Yeah,
and so. They did a bad job. I wish we had a different UCC, but the result I don't think would have been any different. The bottom line is the other bidders did not come up. If they would have, do you think INX had a higher bid and they were rejected? It's not what happened, guys. Cross Tower, whatever their name was, whatever you want to call them. Do you think they had the higher bid and they're like, no, let's go with Binance? No.
Well, don't you think it's hilarious that Binance raises security concerns after they complained that FTX raised national security concerns and kept them out of the first bidding process? I think it's kind of hilarious that they use that kind of thing to freeze out the UCC.
Faith, don't feel bad. We all made huge mistakes. Unfortunately, as you can see our grizzled faces, we're a little bit older now. We've learned that the only thing you can do, there's no DeLorean time machine from Back to the Future. For those of you that are old enough to remember, you just got to learn and do the best you can. We cannot go back to the summer and to June and take our tokens off the exchange. If we could go back and talk to our old selves, we even did a show. You guys can go back and look, and we talked about the fact that we were concerned about what had just happened. We kind of sounded the alarms, but didn't take action. We can't go back and fix that. It is what it is, right? In life, you got to learn from your mistakes and you got to move on. You live in the past all you want. It's not going to help. It's not going to bring funding.
That's why that's why the driver's window is bigger than the rear view. You shouldn't spend too much time looking behind. And
so,
also,
Voyager went on a run today.
A lesson. If you learn something from this and you become a better trader, you become a better crypto investor,
or just take profits.
Then it's a win-win, right? You take profits, you become a better investor, you use cold storage, then it's a win-win. You're a champion after that. You've turned that loss into a win over, just turning it into a
like
lesson.
I said, for some people, it's going to take years and years. Mindset. It's going to take years to become whole again. And that's okay. Look, the alternative is not getting anything back, which I know people said was impossible. But just wait and see how long FTX is in bankruptcy, guys. Wait and see how long Celsius. There's still people in Celsius that have this bogus dream of IOU tokens and Simon Dixon starting his own thing where he gives shares. It's all pipe dreams. It's the quicker you get your funds back, the quicker you are in the driver's seat yourself to recover. Don't listen to those guys. Simon is saying how horrible the deal is. His funds have not been stuck. Like everyone can scream and yell all they want, but we're the ones that were suffering. Okay, so yeah, I wish I was getting 100% back. Does it suck to get between 60 and 70? Hell yeah, it sucks. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do? You can either cry about it the rest of your life, or you can make some good decisions. And you decide for yourself how much you want to put in crypto, how much you want to put in other places. But I'm going to tell you guys, the research shows the next bull market, there will be an opportunity to make some money back. And that's the way you have to look at it.
Once you get your hands on the whatever value you get back, whether it's 50%, 60%, now you can start to apply those lessons, right? Now you can look back at the market and go, all right, this is what I learned from this collapse. Mm-hmm. This is what when we get into that bull market next time, you are going to be one of those crypto OGs that we're talking about in the last bull market, the one that's putting a down payment on a house. That's your future once you get your hands on that capital again. And so,
but it's not going to, let's not lie to our audience. It's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy, take a lot of hard work and lessons learned rather than starting cold.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a beautiful thing, I promise.
At least once you get whatever you get back, at least you have closure. And I think for me, closure is very important. You can't really put a value on that, because if you're always turning back and looking at the past, one, you're going to hurt your neck, but two, you're never really able to move forward. So let's hope for everyone's sake we don't have to wait till May. That is now worst case scenario. Really quickly, you kind of alleviated some of people's concerns about Binance US going bankrupt. Right now, they're saying all the right things. Would anything shock me in crypto? No. I'm not going to sit here and say there's no chance Binance US is going to go bankrupt. They claim to have one-to-one funding. They claim not to practice any crazy activity. They claim that if everyone withdrew, they'd still be solvent. Is that 100% true? I don't know. They claim they've gone through the audit. Has the judge audited? Well, there's one thing. Has Voyager lawyers done an audit? Has the Voyager leadership that's paying themselves these big salaries, have they done an audit? The UCC obviously has not. They're still learning as they go. So who is going to be in charge, Mr. FOMO, of making sure that Binance US can indeed pull this off, and we're not stuck in a doomsday scenario in a couple months where our assets are rewarded to someone that then files for bankruptcy?
Well, let's talk about that, the Binance audit for a little bit, because the Binance audit was done by a group called Mazars. And there's a lot of FUD out there about how they're not a real auditing firm, or they're not a top auditing firm just because they're not a U.S. auditing firm. But they're recognized globally as one of the top auditing firms, as well as other things. And so the FUD surrounding that, I think, is sort of American. Like, it's people saying, well, they're not an American company, so how can we trust them, right? And so there's sort of that odd thought about them anyway. But Mazars is actually a legit auditing company. Then the other problem is that some of these auditing companies that worked with FTX are now being sued because they audited FTX and said everything was on the up and up. Well, obviously everything wasn't on the up and up. and now they are on the hook. They are liable for what they said about FTX. Mazars has since pulled their audit of Binance and Crypto.com and other crypto exchanges off their website in order to reflect that they don't want to be held liable if Binance goes under for some reason or another. However, that doesn't necessarily signal that they are insolvent, right? That just signals that there's a lot of weird things going on that caused them, one, to do an audit that was limited. It was proof of reserve versus proof of liability, but the liabilities weren't all there.
And
listen, then
listen,
they pulled it later because they didn't want to be liable. If
listen, to be
Binance
honest, you just probably don't want to take that risk, right? The day you have your funds back, you pull out. You can always come back to something like Binance US and use it as an off and on ramp, but I wouldn't recommend just leaving your money there and seeing what
And there's
happens.
some awesome new cold storage options out there. Like Ledger just is coming out with something that you can pre-order now called Stacks, which was made or designed by one of the original creators of the iPhone. And so it looks pretty cool from what I've seen. And they stack literally on top of each other with magnets. But they are supposed to hold a lot more crypto and be a lot more open to the different cryptos. Like they're not limited.
Yeah.
And
so
so
guys,
there's going to be a lot
really
more options like that too.
Here's what's really important. We should know later in the week in terms of percentages, a little more information. We know January 5th is a huge day, voting dates, all of that. We kind of have the end dates in mind. We should know more later in the week, and we'll come back. Don't let anyone tell you that the UCC is the only reason this happened. That was never the case. Again, you could be horrible at one thing, but not be responsible for something else. I'm not letting the UCC off the hook, but they're not the reason why we're going to only get 60 to 70%, whatever that number is.
And remember, Binance globally, not Binance.us, BAM trading services, but Binance globally is, I think, a $59 billion company in their valuation. And so not that they would commingle customer funds and give that over to Binance.us, but I could see them offering them a loan to make sure that they could move forward and remain solvent. And
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. But remember, they have a big backer.
Yeah, we will keep you guys updated. For now, some good news. We are going to hold our breath and make sure that we get you the very latest. We thank you guys for sticking with us. If you have not done so, really help us out by hitting that subscribe. We want to get to 400 as quickly as we can. It'll help us get more and more shows out to you. For MrFOMO, this is AZcrypto. Thanks again and have a great night.
See you.